In the heart of West Africa lies Burkina Faso, a land of resilience, a nation forged in struggle. For decades, its people have been caught in a cycle of poverty, conflict, and dependence on foreign powers. But now, a new voice has emerged, one that dares to challenge the status quo. His name is Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's young military leader, and he's rewriting the rules of the game. For too long, Africa's wealth has been overshadowed by its debts. Debts to the West, to the IMF, to the World Bank, and to former colonial powers like France. But Traoré says, no more.
This is the journey to one Africa.
This is the story of a man, a nation, and a continent on the brink of a revolution. To understand Traoré's stand, we must first look back. In 1944, the IMF and World Bank were born, created to rebuild a war-torn world. But for Africa, emerging from colonial rule, these institutions became something else. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the military leader of Burkina Faso, continues to distinguish himself among African leaders by refusing to adhere to the reckless practice of borrowing. Billions from international organizations like the IMF and the World Bank. Recent reports circulating on social media indicate that Traoré has turned down financial assistance from the IMF, showcasing his commitment to safeguarding his country's long-term interests, while many leaders on the continent have fallen into debt traps due to loans with stringent conditions. Traoré's resolute stance aims to prevent Burkina Faso from facing similar consequences. Traoré firmly believes that the IMF and the World Bank perpetuate economic oppression through their structured operations, keeping countries ensnared in perpetual debt. His bold decision to break away from this cycle demonstrates his dedication to prioritizing the well-being of his people above all else. Notably, Traoré's rejection coincided with the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso delivering a televised lecture titled, "No one violates freedom of expression as much as Westerners," underscoring the country's stance against Western interference in African affairs. During the address, Mr. Apollinaire Kailam provided insightful perspectives on why human rights policies often seem to apply uniquely to Africa, sparking further discussion and reflection. President Traoré's words resonate with many Africans, who have long felt that the continent's vast resources are enough to propel it to prosperity. For too long, African nations have relied on foreign loans, which often come with stringent conditions that do more harm than good. The president's refusal to bow to these financial institutions is seen by many as a call to reclaim Africa's autonomy and chart a new course for its future. Africans from all walks of life have voiced their support for President Traoré's stance. He knows Africa is supposed to be the richest continent in the world, one commentator noted, but these foreign powers distract our leaders with loans that end up being looted, leaving nations in debt and citizens working like slaves. The sentiment echoes a famous observation by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who once said, "Africa is a graveyard for Africans. When an African gets rich, he'll keep his money in Switzerland, get medical care in France, invest in Germany, live in Dubai, and consume from China. When he dies, his body will be buried in his home country. How can you develop a graveyard?" But Traoré's message is different. He is urging Africans to invest in their own land, to build their own future, and to reject the cycle of dependency that has held the continent back for so long. This man is putting into action what others just say. Another supporter remarked, "Africans can develop Africa by themselves and make it a prosperous, advanced, and beautiful place to live." In a move that has captured the attention of international observers and economists, Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré has made the decision to decline financial assistance from the International Monetary Fund, IMF. This decision marks a significant moment for the West African nation as it navigates its economic and political landscape. The IMF, known for providing financial support to countries in need, had approved a substantial arrangement under the Extended Credit Facility for Burkina Faso, aimed at addressing the country's balance of payments problems and supporting economic resilience and poverty reduction efforts. However, President Traoré's administration has opted to turn down this offer. This decision could be seen as a statement of economic independence and a desire to pursue a different path towards financial stability and development. It reflects a broader trend of African leaders evaluating the terms and long-term implications of international financial aid. President Traoré's stance may resonate with a growing sentiment for self-sufficiency and a cautious approach to foreign debt. One of the key reasons cited for rejecting the IMF's assistance is the belief that such aid could perpetuate economic dependency and limit the country's control over its financial decisions. There is also a sentiment that accepting the aid could keep the country ensnared in a cycle of debt. This perspective aligns with a broader trend among some African leaders, who are re-evaluating the long-term implications of international financial aid and expressing a preference for policies that promote autonomy and self-determination. Additionally, the decision reflects concerns about the potential for international financial institutions to influence domestic policy and priorities. By turning down the IMF assistance, Burkina Faso is asserting its financial sovereignty and demonstrating a commitment to prioritizing the well-being of its citizens above external pressures. It's important to note that Burkina Faso faces numerous challenges, including security issues and the impact of external shocks such as the COVID-19 pandemic and adverse weather conditions. Despite these difficulties, the government's decision suggests a willingness to address these challenges independently, possibly looking towards other forms of partnership and support that align more closely with the nation's goals and values. The move has sparked discussions on the sustainability of such a decision and its potential impact on Burkina Faso's future. Some analysts argue that while this could foster a sense of national pride and control over the country's resources, it also raises questions about the viability of self-funded development in the face of significant economic challenges. As Burkina Faso charts its course, the international community will be watching closely to see how this decision unfolds and what it might mean for the future of financial assistance and economic sovereignty in Africa. The country's leadership appears to be signaling a new era of autonomy and self-determination, setting a precedent that could influence the region's economic policies for years to come. They promised development, roads, schools, hospitals. But what we got was debt. Loans came with conditions: cut spending, privatize resources, open markets. Our sovereignty was the price. Burkina Faso, like many nations, fell into the trap. By the 1980s, it owed millions to the IMF and World Bank. France, its former colonizer, retained influence through aid and military presence. The cycle seemed unbreakable, until now. In September 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, just 34 years old, seized control in a coup. His mission wasn't just political, it was economic. He saw foreign loans as shackles, and he vowed to break them. Africa does not need the World Bank, the IMF, Europe, or America. We have all it takes to develop our economies without foreign debt or loans. We cannot continue to be enslaved by these debts, he said. He's different. Leaders before him took the money, built big houses, left us with nothing. Traoré says we can stand on our own. I believe him. Huiche. Traoré's vision is rooted in Burkina Faso's resources, gold, cotton, and untapped potential. He argues that Africa's wealth has been exploited by outsiders for centuries. Why borrow, he asks, when the continent holds the keys to its own future? This isn't just rhetoric. He's rejected an IMF extended credit facility worth hundreds of millions. That takes guts. Most leaders would have taken the cash and run. France too felt the sting of Traoré's resolve. In 2023, he expelled French troops and ended decades of military reliance. No more aid, no more loans. He wants Burkina Faso to chart its own course. Huiche. But Traoré isn't isolating. Burkina Faso, he's forging new alliances. Russia, China, fellow African nations. Partners, he says, won't demand his country's soul in return. Freedom comes at a price. Burkina Faso faces a brutal insurgency, jihadist groups wreaking havoc in the north. Without Western funds, Traoré must stretch limited resources to fight this war. The West says he's reckless. You need our money to survive. But Traoré's betting on self-reliance. It's a gamble, and the stakes are high. Yet amidst the chaos, signs of progress emerge. Burkina Faso's GDP has climbed from 18.8 billion to 22.1 billion in 2 years. Traoré's launched Arzika, a national banking system to keep wealth in the country. He's betting on his people, not foreign banks. Before, we sent our money abroad. Now, it stays here. I started my business because of Traoré. He's waking us up. The West isn't happy. The IMF warns of economic collapse without their support. France fumes over lost influence. But Traoré remains unmoved. Traoré's defiance resonates beyond Burkina Faso. From Nairobi to Accra, voices echo his call. Africa can rise without the West's chains. 2 years in, the results are mixed. Growth is up, but security remains fragile. Critics call him naive. Supporters hail him as a hero. One thing is clear, Ibrahim Traoré has ignited a debate that won't fade. Africa can live without the rest of the world, but the rest of the world cannot live without Africa. As the sun rises on Burkina Faso, the question lingers. Can a nation, and a continent, truly break free from the past? Ibrahim Traoré believes they can. His story is unfinished, but its echoes are already shaking the world.